Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Witchstone from Reiner Knizia. Witchstone is a 2 to 4 player action selection game which players are slowly filling up their cauldron with various action tiles in order to most efficiently take a bunch of actions from 6 different actions in the game, trying to cascade your way into larger and more powerful actions that will ultimately give you the game, or give you points in the game, more efficiently, faster, and better than the other players before your action tiles run out. That sounded like a lot of things. I guess the core idea is take action tile, put it into your cauldron, match symbols, do that better than other people. Let's go ahead and walk our way through this. This is basically a game of 6 different actions. You're going to have different icons you have on these tiles. You're going to have these tiles behind a nice little play area that you have that I don't have set up here because, you don't need it over here. But you have a little play area, you're going to have your tiles, and you place a tile into your cauldron. When you place a tile into the cauldron, you are likely going to be trying to match symbols. Ideally, if you're trying to win the game, you're trying to match symbols. And so, for example, let's go ahead and figure out what's a good combination I can take here. Let's say we take this tile over here and we place it like so. So by placing it like so, we are going to be able to take a level 2 gem action and a level 1 witch action. Now later in the game, if I place a witch over here, I'll be able to take a level 1, link action and a level 3 witch action because you always count the number of symbols in the chain that you've created. That's the core idea. Place a tile and take an action at that strength, then refill behind your display, so you always have some agency over the tiles you have. You're going to have your pick of 5, but then from there you have to try to make the best from what you have. Now, once you can no longer refill your display, the game will end, which means you do not have, all your tiles to play. You're going to have most of your tiles, less 4 or so, to actually play to cover all your actions and turns in the game. These tiles are going to give you 6 different actions. All of them relate to 6 different ways you're going to be scoring in the game, some of them having more of an impact than others, but all of them interweaving in slightly different ways. Let's go through them one at a time, explaining the actions, and then we'll focus on the cauldron. So first of all, you're going to have your link action. Your link action is going to be this symbol over here, that little link, and then again, the more of these you have, let's start focusing it over here, the more of these symbols you have, the more of those actions you'll be able to take. So if you have 4 of these symbols, when you place this down, you'll take the action 4 times. If you have 1 of them, you'll take the action once. And when you do so, when you place it down to your cauldron over here, like so, doom, we're going to go ahead and grab 2 of our links and start placing links on the board to connect various locations. You'll see you have your starting witch. Let's place them face down so you can see them. You have your starting witches on the board, your starting towers, 4 different towers you have in the game, and you're going to be spreading out more and more witches as the game progresses, but we'll come back to that with that action. To start off with, though, you're going to create links from various locations. Each strength of the action creates 1 link. The various ranges are 1, 2, or 3 long. You can start a range without finishing it, and once you do so, no other player can go there. And eventually, when you complete a link, you've now created a chain to another location, which will be helpful in a second, but also you're going to get points, either 1, 3, or 6 points, depending on if you did a 1, 2, or 3 chain link. That's the link action. Build links, connect locations, ta-da. From there, you're also going to have the action to go ahead and erect towers or witches or whatnot. That's going to be the next action, which is the witch action. Each point of this action, so again, if we had placed this over here, you'd have a 2-point witch action. Each point allows you to do one of 3 things. A single point lets you put a witch on the board, a single point lets you move a witch, and a single point lets you stand that witch up as a tower at that location. So for example, if we had 3 witches, we could put 1 down, move it over here, and stand it up, claiming that location. Other players can still go there, but as the first player there, we're going to get the extra bonus tiles, which I actually didn't set up on the board over here, but you have these bonus tiles over here that are going to be at different locations. The first person to each location is going to be able to claim one of these tiles, getting the bonus of that tile, as well as the tile being worth 2 points as well. So you have these different tiles on the board, you get different bonus actions from those tiles that all correlate to the various actions we're going to talk about today, and then sometimes there are points as well, and then there are also 2 points at the end of the game. So the first person to a location will get the extra points, but then past that, by being there in general, you're going to get 2 points, which is indicated up here, and you're trying to get your witches across the various locations. So again, a witch action, there's 3 possible points you can spend them on. You can spawn a witch, move a witch, or stand up a witch in order to get access to that location. That is the witch action in the game. And there's a bunch of things that, we'll talk about it more, but one of the actions is going to be the card action, which is going to want you to have different things in the game, but we'll come back to that. The next action we can take, let's go ahead and look at our player to see which one we want to do next. Let's do the pentagrams next. The pentagram is going to be up here, in this spot over here, and for each movement, for each point of pentagram you have on your board, you're going to move your token around the board slowly but surely. So you're going to start over here, you're going to start moving, and when you cross the symbol, you're going to get that, put a new one out, and you get that symbol. When you cross this over here, you're going to get that tile, which is 7, 5, 4, 3, 2 points. It's always an infinite 2, but it's a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6. So basically, you're working your way down, getting more points if you're the first one there. So moving quickly around the pentagram will give you these bonus tiles as well as the points. And the way the bonus tiles work in the game is these can either be traded as a one-time action to take the actions shown twice, or alternatively, they can go into your cauldron where they can become a kind of wild for those two symbols, helping you connect through zones, and of course adding more symbols so you can strengthen your action. Early game, you definitely want to be putting them into your cauldron. Later game, it's not always so clear. A pentagram action, so again, the strength of the pentagram is how far your owl will move. Moving around the board again and again will give you more and more symbols, and yes, I realize I moved the red owl instead of the blue owl, even as I'm pretending to be blue over here. That's the third action, which brings us to the fourth action, which is the crystal action. You may notice that there are crystals in your cauldron. Over here we have different crystals, and they block the placement of various tokens. You cannot place the tokens on there, and you cannot put these onto a place that already has a token. But for each crystal action, so again, had we gone over here, for example, that'd be 2, you can move your crystals 1, 2 along the board. That's going to clear up spaces, but more importantly, as you move them onto certain symbols around the edge of your board, you're going to take that crystal and put it into that matching symbol, taking that action there. So by moving this crystal off the edge of the board onto the link symbol, I also get to go ahead and create 2 links and start a new location connection over there. So the crystal action basically does 2 things. It clears up your cauldron from the crystals that are currently in your way, and it also gives you bonus actions. Now it's worth noting you could take crystals out of your cauldron whenever you want at your leisure. You'll just pay a point penalty every single time you do so, with escalating points getting worse and worse for each crystal you remove from your cauldron. So if they're really in your way, you don't have to use the crystal action, but I wouldn't recommend doing it too often. It gets more and more costly as you go through it. That brings us to the fourth action, or fifth action. The fifth action is the wand action. That's going to be partially covered up over here, but you're going to start with your little owls on the wand over here, and as you take a wand action, you're going to move along the board, which is going to give you 2 things. They're going to give you bonus actions in every alternate spot, and then they're going to give you points in every alternate spot for certain things you've done already. So you're getting various bonus actions and various points, and the further ahead you are, if you are the leader on this track, you're going to get additional points, which kind of gives you an incentive to get in on that wand early, because you'll get more points if you do so early in the game. Which brings us to the last action, which is the last action is going to be the cards over here. When you take this over here, this is one of those few actions which isn't technically stronger, but rather better choice. Almost every other action, or every other one of the 5 other actions is a stronger action. You put down more links, you get more witches, you get more crystal movement, more pentagram movement, more movement on the wand, and then the last one is the card selection, which is you get more choice. Not more actual result, but more choice. Meaning, a strength 1 card action is going to let you take this card right here from that spot. That's it. A strength 2 card action lets you pick from these 2. A strength 6 card action lets you pick any single one of these cards. So you still only get 1 card no matter what, but you do get the agency of choosing which card works for you. As far as what do the cards do, they tend to do one of 2 things. They either are going to give you an improved action of a different kind when you take it, or alternatively, they give you endgame scoring. You're going to get scoring at the end of the game for achieving different things, 3, 5, or 7 points, depending on how well you achieve them, and trying to find the things you're already doing well at as you pick from these scoring cards. That's going to be a big part of your strategy. Not just trying to earn points as you do things, but then getting doubly rewarded by grabbing the right cards that will then doubly reward you for the things you are already doing well at as you play. It's also worth noting cards are worth points if you don't cash them in, but usually it's better to try to get the reward for them. That is basically Witchstone. That is almost everything going on here. A few small things we didn't really cover. We didn't cover there's going to be some bonus tiles down here, and if you choose this bottom row, you can choose those bonus tiles. Again, some small adjacencies. We did not get to every single little rule. The central tower over here, the first person to get is going to get 5, 3, 2, 1 points. So there's another reason to go to this area. A bunch of small little extra things to note, but the core idea is you take a tile, you place it down to your cauldron, you're going to get bonus actions, you're going to get 2 actions. Those 2 actions, the strength of them is going to depend on how many matching symbols you have. You're trying to build larger and larger clusters of symbols, so that by the time you get to the mid or end game, you are basically placing down a tile and you're getting like 8 different link advancements, which cause you to get all these chaining bonuses over here, getting a chunk of points, then spread a bunch of winches, move across the pentagram, clear your cauldron from crystals, get as many cards as possible, trying to do a little bit of everything in the game while acknowledging you cannot do everything until eventually you place your last action and add up the points and see who won. Which brings us to the rules starting off with ease, which brings us to the review starting off with ease of play. Overall, the game is fairly straightforward. It's not an incredibly short rulebook, but it's short enough to go through, and I'd say that for the most part, the core action system, it basically goes through, hey, here are 6 actions. The core idea is you place a tile into your cauldron. Then here are these 6 actions, and then from there you play the game. It's around 60 to 90 minutes, I think the box says. The box says 60 to 90 minutes, I agree with that. But overall, the game is fairly straightforward as far as what you're doing. It's more intricate in terms of trying to maximize which tracks feed well into each other as you figure out what your specialty is. Ultimately, you're going to be trying to maximize as much as possible in certain icons, because you're just going to get strong reactions, but if you neglect anything too much, it may not be worth it, so there's a balance there as you play. But overall, a fairly simple game to not simple, not the hardest and not the simplest game to teach or to dive into. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, which is first of all, loading up your cauldron is satisfying. You start the game in this game by putting down a tile and taking a small action, 2 small actions that are both, well, small, inherently so. But then your next action is a drop more powerful. Your action after that is a drop more powerful again. Your actions continue to get stronger and stronger as you have these tiles in front of you and as you're trying to figure out what combination of things to do to clear your cauldron, to place various bonuses out, to try to maximize your score as you figure out how to place things in different ways that will give you the best possible return. I love taking advantage of these tiles over here. Getting these into your cauldron is beautiful because you can start working your way through certain things. By popping this down over here, I now have my pentagrams lined up over here, but also my wands, and they both go through each other in a way that gives me a lot more flexibility. There's a lot of fun in terms of trying to get strong actions, strong turns out of your cauldron as you play. It is a very rewarding experience to start off with these small actions and then work your way through the mid and late game of just having large actions coming your way. And the interlinking systems kind of means that everything feeds into each other to a certain degree. If you're heading up on that wand excessively, you're going to get small bonuses that spread outwards. If you're clearing your cauldron of crystals, you're going to get small bonuses that spread outwards. But you might want to focus on the wand because the wand rewards you for being in first place, so you should do that as the very first thing in the game. Focus on the wand before you lose those first place bonuses. But then in the meantime, someone else at the table is in the middle of claiming all these links on the board and slowly starving you out of various locations, which means you want to get there first because the board's more important. Meanwhile, someone else is popping up their witches and claiming all these little bonus tokens as well, which is why you want to do that first. And don't forget, you also want to get the center cauldron first, and you also want to make sure to go around the pentagram first because these are worth more points if you're doing it that way. Basically, everything in the game is going to reward you for doing things first, and so trying to find what you can chain together as you get everything done is just an overall fairly rewarding experience because all the systems are fun to play with. They're all giving you stuff. There's no such thing as a bad turn in Witchstone. They're all fun turns. There's just good turns and better turns as you maximize how you can cash in on your cauldron. It's a one-trick pony, but it is a fun and rewarding one-trick pony as you try to interweave and link all these systems together in the way that is the most efficient. And then don't forget to gather the scoring cards, because getting those and cashing in on those in a way that you're already working towards and building on just really gives you chunks of extra points in the game. This is going to be a game that goes to over 100 points as you play, and a big part of those points is going to come from cashing in 4 or 5 cards that scored you 7 points apiece for already being good at something as you played through it. As far as what I don't like in the game, kind of touched upon it briefly, but it is a one-trick pony. The core game concept here is your cauldron. The core game concept is a cauldron in which you are placing something down and then doubling down on that one thing as much as you possibly can. The doubling down is essential. This is not a game where you want to evenly go into different tracks, because evenly going to different tracks effectively is another word for saying you're not maximizing your actions to the most possible, strongest way you can do it. Sure, things interlink, but because they interlink, you kind of want to focus on the ways you can get as much as possible, and then maybe have a little bit, tangential. For instance, this card track over here, this is the one that maxes out how powerful it can be, so getting a strength 3 over here could be enough to get you what you need, while really doubling down on putting 7 crystals down to the main board as you go through it. This cauldron, as fun as it is a one-trick pony. It's the core system that everything else is riding on, and it just comes down to how well you can chain things together in your cauldron, how lucky you get as you go through which tiles feed into what you're already doing, and then how many times you can play that core strategy or try different approaches to the game before it starts to feel like the main system is already being explored as you go. I like Witchstone, make no mistake, but it does feel like it kind of relies on a single interweaving element, that from there interweaves everything together, but it's that single element. And then the only other thing I really don't like, I'd say, is the fact that the cards just feel, even though they're important, they are important. It's a big deal. These cards over here are important to your play. but they do feel like the least fun to do, which is a thing in games in general, at least for myself. I find that seeking out points versus seeking out fun things, seeking out points is always less fun, but it's part of the winning strategy, so you do want to do that. But I think because of the fact that you only get one card, and again, you couldn't get more. If you got more than one card, this game would be very broken very quickly, but I almost wish there was a different way that they address this one, because this action is just the least satisfying. There's the least reward for stacking up a bunch of them in your cauldron, and it's less fun when you're like, hey, by the way, I played a strength 6 card action, and that means I get one card of my choice, and it happens to be the one I want is over here anyway. That is a very not satisfying anticlimactic moment. I can't speak for the balance around how to address that, but it just feels less satisfying to lean into the card action compared to anything else in the game. As far as what I can see others not liking, few small things here. First of all, like I mentioned already, kind of to a degree, there is dependence on the tiles you draw. You will try to build up your cauldron as much as possible, and this entire game mechanism rests on this one area you're trying to go for, and then you'll draw certain tiles that force you to break or lean into adjacencies in a way that gives you some degree of agency, but not a perfect degree of agency, and when everything rests on this one thing, not having the action you want could be game-breaking as far as the strategy you're trying to pursue. Running out of that single, like even right now on the board, are we missing an action over here? We have wands, we don't have it, we have a scroll over here, I guess we do have all the actions, but if you don't have the action you need right now, I guess right now we still have all the actions. Give me a situation where we don't have all the actions. I'm not going to prove my point here. But having the actions, not having access to the actions you want, or even just the right combination of tiles, can limit you, especially when everything comes down to how this board plays out. I'll also say that in general, at least in my opinion, the point scoring cards are so much better than the action cards, meaning these cards over here that score you points seem to be such a better reward than getting a slightly more efficient action in the game. I don't know if that's, universally considered true or not. It does seem to be true from the plays we've had, although that would lend into the whole strategy aspect of, well, then ideally these will start clogging up the lower spaces, and you'll have to have a stronger action thing to be able to choose a card from here, so it lends itself to why you'd want to do that. Practically speaking, I don't find that it does get clogged up, and so it just feels like they're less rewarding cards, and an action is already a little less rewarding. As far as final thoughts on Witchstone, I overall enjoy this puzzle. And I wrestled a bit with the rating. I was juggling between a 3.5 and a 4 on this one. Where does it end up for me as far as overall? I enjoy this game, I like it, but something's holding back for me. Part of it is the fact that the game does feel like I've kind of explored it already to a degree. I still like the way things interlink, and I still kind of want to continue addressing and playing and going through it. It very much has a Stefan Feld feel to it. It's a Reiner Knizia design, has a Stefan Feld feel, and the way you kind of have this, a point salad and a bunch of things interlinking and weaving and giving you a solid game to go through. I think it really is satisfying to play through Witchstone. It's satisfying, it's fun, it's engaging, you have different tracks to explore, you're going to combine those different tracks in different ways. All of those things are fun. I think the Cauldron holds it back from me a bit. It both elevated my first few plays of the game and then brought down how much I've enjoyed it as I've continued to go through it. It feels a little one-trick pony in a way that I'm still engaged by the game. I'm not sure where it lies for me. Will it stay? Will it go? I don't know yet. Right now I'm still intrigued enough to want to continue playing it. I like the game. For right now I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. It is the kind of game that can go up. I do not see it going down. It's too good at what it's doing to go below a 3.5, but also that Cauldron just has me a drop reserved about how much I really want to explore it. It is the kind of game that an expansion could absolutely make it or break it, which is part of... I like it. I like Witchstone. I'm not in love with it, but I do very much enjoy it. A 3.5 out of 5. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, Castle Burgundy. To a certain extent, this has that same Castle Burgundy feel. Again, not the same full-on mastery and magic and all that, but it does have that feel of having, a bunch of different core avenues and how you're going to choose them, and you will want to, and you will be able to explore a bunch of them, but you will not be able to explore all of them. It does have a lot of those same high notes of Castle Burgundy. It doesn't click the exact same way, but it certainly feels reminiscent. And then secondly, another game from Reiner Knizia that has the same core puzzle to a degree, but a lot simpler, Ingenious. A game I have not played in a long time, but has that same kind of putting things down in a central good puzzle that's purely based on that puzzle. That game is a one-trick pony that doesn't expand out into other avenues. It stays as a one-trick pony, and it does it well, and Ingenious is a game I have not played in a very long time, but I have very fond memories of playing it. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this video helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.